All right, welcome back, HSC Podcast 180. Just joined us from our sports segment. We're now moving into movie entertainment segment. Uh, we always have this segment for you, and if you guys have comments on movies you want to see us review, TV shows you want to see us review, this summer we're going to be doing tons of movie stuff, tons of top fives. So a lot of good stuff for the podcast coming. So jump in the comments and let us know what types of movies, what types of actors, actresses, anything that you'd love us to review. So this week we have a great topic actually, and then kind of a dark cloud came in and kind of overshadowed our topic in a weird way because we were talking about movies about kids in high school, nothing in particular, but just you know impactful high school or movies about kids in high school, right? And then we get ready to do the podcast, and then James Van Der Beek passes away. And we always talk about actors. It's nothing new for us to talk about actors that passed away and pay tribute to them. We'll do top fives, we'll do movie reviews. But it's strange to me that we're doing high school movies, and then this guy who's kind of iconic for Dawson's Creek, and then movie wise for Varsity Blues, in like some serious like high school drama type movies, right? And so that's just, I mean, yeah, definitely rest in peace to him. But how ironic is that happened at the same time?
Yeah, and then for me, I and this thing also, it's like it's so sad. He was so young, but this is also a time to like, hey, you can look at some of his other work that you maybe never thought of. And I want to bring up a movie, Rules of Attraction. Have you seen the Rules of
Yeah,
Attraction?
yeah.
Great movie,
Hmm.
messed up movie, but a great movie. His character plays Sean Bateman, whose older brother is Patrick Bateman from American Psycho. So it's in the same universe. Um, that's a good movie to go and watch if you've never seen it before. It shows him with a different range than his Dawson's Creek or Varsity Blues.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, in general, you could see it in him as he got older, as an actor and as a person, because he's our age, right? So he's not, we've seen him from young to old, and we were been in movies and watching that for that long, right? We've always been into that. And so if you followed him, and you don't have to follow him closely to see him age and grow as an actor and see a little bit more and more of his range as he went on. But he's iconic in Dawson's Creek, of course. And when you're talking about high school, and obviously it's not a movie, but it's still kind of the same thing, a show based on high school. Um, I mean, that was huge, right?
Yeah. Not my cup of tea, but it was huge. Everybody, I mean, you knew it. You know the theme song. I
Right.
mean,
And you saw it. It's not like you never saw it, right? You watched it.
no, I never. I just I know the people in it, but I never really watched it.
You never watched an episode, huh? Wow. That's probably pretty rare for people in our age group. Like I wasn't an avid watcher of it, but I can't say I didn't watch, episodes here and there.
Yeah, I know what Katie Holmes, Joshua Jackson,
Yeah.
Michelle Williams, Kerr Smith. Um, wasn't Busy Phillips in that too, I think.
Yeah, a ton of them that are recognizable for that time frame too, right?
Yeah.
And then of course Varsity Blues was great because it's, kind of a theatrical part of him, but the movie itself again focuses around high school, specifically high school football, but then also the other, any movie you got to have your romance and your drama and all your other things, but that's another movie where it's kind of like the kids standing up to the system, right? Down with the man.
Yeah. Oh, and it was near and dear to our hearts because of football.
Right. Well, and yeah, you really want to watch it, if you're a football fan because it's a football movie, right? And we enjoy those. It was pretty well done on the football part of it, I think. There's questionable parts throughout the movie. as far as like, the plot and the acting and things like that. But I thought they did well in the football um scenes and just the that part of the whole season, going through step by step and the feelings, emotions, and things that they go through during the season. And then of course you got to have Bud Kilmer, the coach, and you got to take him down.
Yeah.
But that's a great one there too. So definitely a shout out and respect to James Van Der Beek. And it's just sad when somebody goes in general, but that young.
Well, he had 6 kids.
Yeah,
That's what's heartbreaking.
that's rough. And then, of course, we didn't get to mention before. We won't spend a lot of time, but again, you want to, show a tribute with Catherine O'Hara because that's pretty recent as well. And if everybody doesn't know, you just watch Home Alone, right? And you'll know.
Yeah, I mean, Home Alone, but that didn't, Schitt's Creek, Beetlejuice,
Yeah, Beetlejuice I love her in Beetlejuice. She's great.
right? And then for me, like it's Best in Show, Waiting for Guffman, and The Mighty Wind shows a lot. And she's from SCTV. Like all the young people that love Schitt's Creek, you got to watch SCTV.
Right. That's interesting. I bet you probably never seen it or even heard of it.
Huh?
Some of those kids that
Yeah,
watch, Schitt's Creek, because that's really got popular with the younger crowd.
right. Yeah. Yeah, and that's the funny thing. I'm like, yeah, it's Eugene Levy and Catherine O'Hara. There've been a bunch of stuff together.
Yeah, exactly. The I mean, obviously, like I said, everybody's gonna iconically recognize her from Home Alone, because that's just such a huge movie. And I mean, who hasn't seen Home Alone at this point?
Right. Well, that, yeah. And I mean, Beetlejuice is pretty big too,
Yeah, yeah. You'll run into a lot of people that haven't seen Beetlejuice, though.
because they probably think it's scary. But I get it. Home Alone's a Christmas movie, so everyone
Right.
sees it because it's Christmas.
Yeah. Yeah, but I mean, in general, like I said, she was, and you named it all. Great range, great actress, fun to watch in anything she did. So it, just another tribute. We have a lot of those on the podcast. You think about a lot of these actors and actresses that we grew up watching or watched a lot of their stuff. It's interesting to see that change start to happen.
Well, let's just start getting older, then you start seeing your heroes pass away.
Yeah. I mean, speaking of that, and that's kind of our next topic is talking about the movies. We're doing these movies about kids in high school. We tried to pick things that, plot wise were more than just you know, stupid kid jokes, right? That had some depth and some plot to them. But you just said it, right? You see some of your heroes pass away or people you really idolize. How do movies like how do they affect kids in general in high school? And what is cause and effect? Is it good? Is it bad?
Well, that's such a hard question to ask since we're so old now, because I don't know this generation of high schoolers if they're even watching movies.
Yeah, I think they are. I mean, I don't know that even generation over generation, in my opinion, I don't think it matters a lot. I think the same things that we went through, they go through.
I just feel like when we were, there were a lot more teen comedies and like teen movies back in the 80s and 90s, right? Because then we like had a lull and then Superbad came out. And then it's been, there's been some here and there like Booksmart and stuff, but I can't think of a newer movie that was a high school movie lately.
Yeah, that you'd watch.
Now I watch every movie though.
Uh, there is I would say, you kind of hit on one of the things as I was kind of digging around about there's more movies are more in less comedy. One thing you mentioned, you don't see as many comedies out there. They're more intense into feelings, into like states, physical states of mind, and they're really driven around, really making you feel a certain way, and playing to your emotions.
Like perks of being a wallflower and stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah. But either way, like when you talk about effects on kids in high school in particular, adolescent as you go down, you gotta look at that where I look at it and say one of the biggest things is that unrealistic expectations that kids get from watching movies. And we had it too, right? That doesn't change generation over
Mhm.
generation, you watch a
You're not going to
space
go up to a
movie.
girl's house with a boombox over your head.
Right.
Stalking.
Stalking now. Yeah. It's like, you're not going to be the last starfighter. And that's an old one, but you know what I mean? It's like movies do create this unrealistic expectation for children. I was reading, about just some of the psychology behind it, and they were talking about like social issues, right? And when they see trends and clicks and things happening in movies, especially high school movies, they relate to it or they try to mimic it and things like that. And I'm reading all this stuff. I'm like, okay, what's the positive for the kids watching movies? Seems like it's all bad.
Right.
And so, what is the positive? What do we get out of kids watching movies?
Well, I think a lot of it is, and it's in the movies that we picked. It's the the what was it? Fighting against the authority, right? And the ones we picked, the high schooler wins
Right.
usually.
That's interesting. But is that the norm in most of these movies? Like just in general?
I would say so. I mean, think about like Breakfast Club, they
Hmm.
all band together, write the letter and be like, "No, we're all as one. We're the all this, but we're all together."
Red Dawn,
Yeah, take it
except
up.
except half of them die.
Yeah. About like Fast Times, Ridgemont High, like Spicoli's trying to mess with Mr. Hand the whole
Yeah.
time.
Yeah, I think in general, like it plays out that way, right? It's not just our movies. I think that's a common theme. So yeah, let's get into that. So we got three movies that we reviewed. First movie, why don't you start? Because this yours is probably the most intense, I think, of the three, but in a good way, right? And so your movies pump up the volume.
Yeah, Christian Slater, Samantha Mathis. Christian Slater is a New York kid, moves to Arizona because his dad becomes the superintendent of the schools. He feels like an outcast, a loner, so he starts a pirate radio thing, and he basically is. This is way before. It's basically the start of like YouTubers and TikTokers. He's the start of like Shock Jock.
Influencers, influencers, right?
Yeah, and he talks about like all sorts of things. Like there's the power structure with the school. Talking about we you have there's the part where there was the gay guy calls in and he's just like, yeah, this is the 80s or the early 90s. I think it was like maybe 90, 89. And he's cool. He doesn't like treat the guy any differently than a normal, any person would. And back then, that wasn't how people talked.
Right, and what people thought.
Right. Uh, and so there's lots going on in this movie. You have um, uh, teenage suicide. You have one girl going for the pressures of being perfect. You have teenage pregnancy. You have everything in this movie. And it's all wrapped together and it actually works.
Yeah, and what a great concept just in general the movie was, not just for its time, but in general. Like he has this like secondary life, right, as this underground DJ or however you want to call it.
Right.
Um, and that it's just a cool concept for a kid in school. He's trying to get away from being the outcast, right? And it's kind of like his alternate ego,
Right. Because he's the quiet kid.
right? And then, but you're right that it's really heavy is the thing. That's why I said yours is probably the most like heavy of we're doing because there's so much for kids watching this, and this kind of relates back to how does this affect kids in high school? Maybe it is a good thing that they get to see it in a movie or hear some kind of scenario where these things play out versus having to go through it in real life. But
Well,
then does that like desensitize it though?
right. My whole thing that I never really got was when all these kids were getting expelled, where were their parents?
Right.
But I mean,
It was the 80s.
yeah, that's true.
So you know where they were. They weren't around. So uh it gets really heavy, right, with the caller where the suicide part anyway, where it's almost like it's his fault,
Right.
because now you're playing therapist when you're just a kid running an underground radio show.
Right.
And so that does get real heavy in the movie and but overall like the movie it's very fast, it keeps rolling through. You don't get times where I don't there's a lot of downtime. Like I feel like it's going pretty heavy the whole time.
Yeah.
But great job by Christian Slater, by the way. Like you look at that and he's a great actor. He's always been. But this is a good role for him. He did well.
Yeah. That's like this and Heathers to me are like the two movies I think of Christian Slater.
Yeah, man, I really love him in Young Guns too, though.
Yeah.
I
Puppets
mean,
all
because
day.
it's such a different role and like he
Right.
really captures it. So that one's tough. But you're right, Heather's he's really good in. But that's a
That
little
was
bit
my,
darker.
it was either Pump Up the Volume or Heathers. I couldn't decide, but
Yeah. Well, you got Christian Slater on the board, so that was a good one. Um, and I think when we talk about the effects on kids and high school, and yeah, you don't get much deeper in that one. But a little on the lighter side, um, I took Ferris Bueller's Day Off. One, because it's so iconic to high school kids for a couple reasons, right? Because it's a great movie, so you got that first part of it, and then it's also that skipping school, having the mental health day that every kid dreams about these days, and and then also you throw in the way he did it, like on top of it. So now it's not only just he's doing it, but the way he's doing it and trying to fool everybody, but at the same time giving everybody a life lesson on, you know, what he says throughout the whole movie, right? Life moves pretty fast. If you don't stop and look around, it's gonna pass you by. And and they really hammer it home throughout the whole movie, right? And because they've got his best friend Cameron, who's playing like the kind of the introvert, and but also the guy with all the problems with his family and what's his next steps and really living that teenage life, right? He's really part of that. Like, man, it's hard being a teenager.
yeah.
But then he's got the whole relationship with his sister, which I think brings in a whole nother side of that for kids and high schoolers, and not just the challenges they have throughout the movie, but how it finishes and how they end up seeing a little bit more of each other and side to side or eye to eye. but then it's just fun, right? And then so you get all of that, you get all your high school stuff, you get all that stuff, but then you get to go out and he gets to sing on the parade and go to the baseball game, and then you have the fun part with the Ed Rooney, the principal chasing him down, and doing all, and that's a little over the top, but it still, makes it fun because that's kind of the beating the man, right? I beat the system.
It's one of those where when you're watching it as a kid and stuff, you're like, oh yeah, and now you're as an adult, you're like, all that dude was trying to do was his job.
Right. You're looking back, you're like, he knew the kid was skipping school. Like,
He's the only one that is not fooled
right.
besides sister. But yeah,
And then you got to shout out to Charlie Sheen's role. It's so
yes.
short, but it's the great role with the sister, but obviously important to the movie because that's kind of where she has the change of heart after talking to him, Charlie Sheen in the police station. But he plays that part just perfectly.
Well, in his little documentary thing, he talks about it. He stayed up for like 2 days or something to get that look.
Right. And he nailed it. He nailed it. I think the overall premise of the movie, though, really has to resonate for a lot of kids in the fact that sometimes you just need to get away, or sometimes you do need what they call mental health day, or to not get so caught up in the everyday life of school and being a teenager, and because it feels like it's yesterday, and then you're 20, then you're 30, then you're 40, then you're 50, and it just goes by super fast. So it's an important movie for kids in that sense.
But that was his ninth absence. Come
Yeah, you're gonna hold him back, really?
on.
Come on. You missed 9 days and you're not gonna graduate high school. Get out of here. All right. Well, then the last one we'll review for Wes is Napoleon Dynamite. This so first you got to start off to understand like Napoleon Dynamite is you got to have the taste for Napoleon Dynamite. Otherwise, you hate the movie because a lot of people do, right?
Yeah, with you have to have a certain sense of humor.
Well, and you just have to enjoy movies in general. Like you can't just be like an average movie fan and be like, yeah, I'll watch that multiple times. Like you really have to enjoy movies and understand that there's always going to be goods and bads to movies, and you got to appreciate the art at some point.
Well, it's dry humor movie.
Right.
And I enjoy dry humor. I mean, Uncle Rico, it just, yeah, his brother, everything. Well, Fonda.
Uncle Rico is obviously the best. I
Yeah.
mean, you watch it and the movie's not the same without him. You
It's,
can do a lot of different things, dude.
uh, yeah. I mean, yes, Uncle Rico is, I bet do you want to bet me I can throw this over the mountain and
Right. He's like, I bet I can throw a football over that mountain. And then dude, who picks up a stake and throws it at someone and hits him in the head, right? Um, but speaking of the high school portion of this, right? Because that's what the review is. That's why we picked this movie. You do have, and I like it because it shows a more of a suburban, maybe even a country vibe of the school system versus, say,
I
what
think
you might
it's,
see in some of the
I
inner
think more
city,
like a Utah or something.
right? Idaho.
Yeah.
But you get to see more of that, right? The FFA is a huge thing there, right? And that's rural, right? That happens in a lot of, I mean, it's not far from the city, but the city schools are much different than the rural schools.
Right.
And so they're playing to that, kind of school versus the inner city. But you see the same clicks in a sense happen, the same popular, unpopular, they have their school elections and all the still same stuff still happens. Oh, this is more of a comedy, right? There's not as much, I think, symbolism, especially when you're going
Well,
from pump up the volume to this.
I think it's basically, the quote unquote nerdy kids, not as popular kid, goes and he becomes class president. We get him to become class president, right?
Well, I
And
mean, Pedro just doesn't even talk at all.
yeah, all your dreams will come true.
Right.
I, I've seen it and it had been years, but the part that cracks me up the most is when Napoleon goes up to the kid and he's like, "If you vote for Pedro, you will be protected."
Right.
And then the bully comes up to the kid, and then here comes the low rider, and he's like, "No, no, no."
Yep. And then they offer him protection and get a bunch of votes from all the nerdy kids. Yeah, and that I mean, just the whole bringing in of the Latin family into
Yeah,
this rural Idaho, small town school area. I mean, it's a great addition. Like I said, whoever wrote that's genius, right? Like, because would it be as funny if Pedro was just Pete, and it was just his friend?
yeah,
No, like it's much funnier because Pedro
right.
moves here and he's Latin and he's got his family and they get to use all those pieces in the movie and that helps.
Yes, it's so the movie is so ridiculous that it works.
Right. Yeah, that's really what it is. It gets over the top in a lot of places. And then you have Kip's whole story, his brother, and that's just great, right? Because the movie's called Napoleon Dynamite, but Kip is definitely the best, storyline.
Right. I'm talking
Like,
to my girlfriend.
yeah. So, but overall, again, it's actually shows a lot about high school and kids and challenges and things that happen growing up, and it's not a horrible one to say, hey, here's a little bit about high school life.
Hey, and out of the three, I mean, you've probably seen a bunch of vote for Pedro shirts, right?
Right.
Wearing those.
Yeah. I mean, I would say Ferris Bueller is probably a more popular movie overall, the most
Right. Yeah.
popular of the three, but it has a big cult following, because like I said, if you enjoy that type of movie and you're into that, like you love the movie.
Right.
So it's kind of there's a lot of love hate.
Fun fact about that movie, both the guy that plays Pedro and Napoleon both are twins. They each have a twin brother.
That's wild.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you think about John Heder, that guy played Napoleon, like he went on to do, more movies.
Not that many more though.
Yeah, but he still had a career,
Hmm.
launching off from that movie, which, that's a hard movie to launch off from.
Right. It's very quirky.
Yeah, so you got to give him respect for that. It's worth it though, worth the watch. I would say, you know, you do get value out of that if we're talking about trying to get that high school plot. What's the value in it? I mean, of the three, I think I still go back to the original Pump Up the Volumes, probably got the most substance to it.
Right.
So I think Ferris Bueller is probably the most fun of the three movies. Like if you're just looking for a good fun entertainment movie, and I think if you're just looking for a good comedy and you enjoy, like you said, that dry humor, you might like the Napoleon Dynamite.
I feel like what is it that they said that like Napoleon Dynamite is one that a lot of people it's their second time watching that they finally like, oh, this is actually good. Because sometimes people watch it the first time and they're going, what the is
Yeah, you're
this?
like, what's going on? I don't get it. Yeah, the mannerisms aren't as funny. the first time as they are the second time, you know. I mean, just something as little as like him standing in the hall and the bully pushes him into the locker, and after the bully walks away, he like swings at a kick, like at him as he, like he was gonna do something. It's just like those little things.
Well, there's like, are you gonna eat your tots?
Yeah.
He puts them in and then they're in class and he's pulling, give me a tot. No, they're mine. I'm starving.
Well, and that's
There's so many
total.
quotable things once you've seen Napoleon Dynamite.
Right, that's what I mean. That's total like there's things throughout the movie just like that where if you do watch the movie, if you do enjoy that, you're gonna repeat in those all the time. And there's always funny mom jokes and there's bad mom jokes, but nobody laughs when I always say your mom goes to college. Like Kip says when the girl's at the door, like she gets all mad at him, and it's not even funny, but it is funny. And it's like those are you're gonna get a lot of those out of that movie.
Right? Or Rex Kwon Do.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Yeah, it's worth it. Definitely worth the watch. All right. Well, that's our wrap movie segment for us. Again, please leave some comments. Let us know if there's any movies you'd like us to review. We'll have some new stuff coming at you next season, and going into summertime, we're gonna have a lot of different topics that we'll try to hit. What's happening in the movies right now, what's happening in the media as far as entertainment. We're never going to talk politics and that kind of stuff, but yeah, whatever's happening in entertainment, we'll keep you informed on that as well. So don't forget to subscribe, check it out, give us a comment, and we'll see you next time.